After nearly a year of nothing, with the game being ruined by regularity and RGM from the last update, we have another one. And it did fix a lot of the issues with the game. I'm very pleased with this update, except for a couple key things. And I'm gonna just, like my last video for the Rage Pants update, I'm gonna go through everything, share my thoughts, and you know, we'll see what happens. We might be looking at another update that gets a patch a couple days afterward because it just absolutely is game breaking. So here it says it's a patch designed for some of the more enthusiastic pit players, many seemingly small changes that will have a big impact on how the game is played at the highest levels. So, for perks, we removed the Endless Quiver, cool, no one used it. You combine it with Spammer, another perk no one used, but people that use both of those, I assume, use them together a lot, so that's absolutely fine. We added Insurance, which is a really interesting perk to me. It does make streaking in mid harder because you're obviously killing nons that just immediately drop down, and really just streaking in general because anyone who dies in, you know, like 2 or 3 hits is gonna get revived back to full, and so that's gonna be a little annoying. I've seen this in action a little bit. I haven't actually played myself, but I've watched my friends play, and I've gotten an idea of how this is gonna play out. Overall, don't think it's a bad addition at all. It's very interesting, but it does make that bit more annoying. Co-op cat, now available at Prestige 1, very good. I don't think anyone used this at all anyway, but it's definitely a lower level perk, so I'm totally fine with that being available at Pres 1. Now this is the issue. Promotion now no longer protects Mystic Lives. Now this is the issue. Promotion no longer protects Mystic Lives from being lost after death on a Mega Streak while using Assistant Streaker. It now instead gives you extra golden XP, and you gain +1 streak every 4th kill. This is game breaking. There's no light way to put that. It's just the whole concept the game has been for the last year and a half since Mega Streaks were added was that you get to your Mega Streak and then you don't have to worry about lives anymore and you can actually have fun. Before Mega Streaks were added, I never used my Mystics because I was scared of losing lives on them, and now that's a fear again, and the only way to save lives is through feathers again, which many people do not have access to. This only hurts the middle class. Well, it really hurts everyone, but especially the mid-tier players who don't have access to feathers because they're just not rich enough to do that. And even the higher tier players who didn't have to use feathers because obviously we had Mega Streaks. I'll get more into this of why this is detrimental, but I want to go through the rest of the stuff first. Killstreak's Withercraft no longer exists and is replaced with Rush in the Highlander bundle. Now Rush, great addition, fantastic perk. I think this is great. And obviously, Withercraft being removed would be an issue if it weren't for this next thing, which Grand Finale is now changed to Magnum Opus, and still gives you the Renown, but also consumes 4 chunks of Vial to fix 4 lives on the item in the Mystic Well, and triggers at 50 kills rather than 100. I think this is great. I think Withercraft needed some kind of change, whether that was reverting back to only requiring 1 chunk of Vial per life, which technically this is, but now it's even easier to grind out because you get 50 kills and you repair 4 lives rather than doing a 100 kill, or every 25 kills repairing 1 and taking 2 vials. And I also think that Grand Finale was very underutilized. Having just one renown as the reward for hitting a 100 kill streak, again, without being able to use mystics, or at least if you did, not being able to save your lives on them. I think this is actually a great change. If it means adding this into the game as well, I'm all for it. The one thing I do have an issue with here is that gemmed items cost 2 times chunks, and now, at face value, this doesn't seem like a horrible thing. I mean, if a gemmed item, if an item's gemmed, it's probably pretty good, so that would make sense that you would need twice as many chunks to repair it. But the issue here is that this makes gemming an item detrimental, because it costs twice as much to repair now. And obviously, gems provide a huge advantage, and there should be some detriment to them. But the detriment is consuming a gem. So, say for example, a player has, let's say, a Peru 2 Shark 2 sword, and they're like, oh, obviously, you would gem the shark, because that makes the sword much more valuable. But now, with the fact that gemmed items cost twice as much to repair, you might second guess that, because, well, you want that bit of extra damage, you want the higher tier of shark, because that makes it much more valuable and much more useful. It now takes more to repair. And so, the average player might see that and be like, you know what, I maybe don't need that extra damage from the shark, so I'm not going to gem it, because I don't want to have to spend twice as much vial repairing it. I think gemmed items costing 2 times more chunks completely devalues the concept of gemming items at all, and is a huge oversight, and I would love to see that reverted if possible. And not just because most of my items are gemmed, but just because gems should have that use, and you shouldn't have to think twice about gemming something besides just the initial fact of consuming a gem about it. You shouldn't have to weigh the perk you get from tiering up an item versus how much it costs to repair, especially when you can't save lives on it anymore. That's ridiculous. But overall, I think the change to Withercraft and Grand Finale is great, just besides that, because this makes it cheaper and easier to repair, which is something everyone needs, especially the middle class players that I'm gonna keep talking about. And I think it was a mistake in the last update to change Withercraft to 2 vial per life instead of 1, so I'm glad this has changed. You can no longer drop mystics / trade or use your ender chest while on a mega streak. This is fine. I don't see too much of a problem with this, or at least I wouldn't if you save lives on mega streaks again. Because this means there is just no way around that. There is no way to save your lives on a mega streak other than using a feather, getting Divine Miracle to proc, or, getting Warp to spawn from a mega event or something. Major event, sorry. Logging out during a mega streak will always lose lives. That's good. It should never... Well, it should if a lobby shuts down, which is incredible that that's still an issue, and that didn't get patched in this update, but, besides the instance of a lobby shutting down, I think this is fine. This change to Uber Streak, I love. It's, I think you shouldn't be able to do more than 1 Uber Streak a day, and obviously, if you want to do more, you have to spend renown. I think that's great, and it also gives higher prestige people something other than Dark Pants to use their renown on, because I'm prestige 27 and I almost have the shop maxed, so it's good. I like this change. It prevents botting, it prevents just people taking over lobbies to just do Ubers all day. In this next change as well, the punch granting streak reset immunity is fantastic. I think this should apply to Escape Pod as well, ideally, but obviously the punch being used with this is a huge, was a huge thing that hunters did to ruin someone's streak, and it's a good change. First aid egg, this one is a bit iffy. I am not a fan of this, I'm gonna be honest. I think losing speed is just a pointless debuff that doesn't correlate at all. You should be able to keep your speed if you use a first aid egg. There's no reason for that. I do think first aid eggs were a little overpowered as they were, but I don't think the cooldown being increased and then decreased on kills helps that though, because it's mostly beneficial to people streaking outside of mid, and if you're inside mid getting a lot of kills, the cooldown means nothing to you anymore. But if you're outside of mid taking those 1v1s and you really need that extra healing, then you're screwed. And I think while First Aid Egg was overpowered in its old state, the fact that you got it at Prestige 3 meant everyone had easy access to it, so I don't think it was an issue. I don't like this change at all. It's not game ruining for me, but I just don't see why they had to do the speed thing in particular. I understand that First Aid Egg was a little overpowered, but I really don't think this was the way to go with this. Golden Pickaxe, this one I'm conflicted on. So instead of the gold pick that you get from Renown, being an efficiency 7 with however much low durability, golden pickaxes are available to everyone in the shop for 500 gold. And they don't have durability. They break a 5-high pillar of obsidian just by clicking the obsidian twice. You don't even have to mine it, you just click it twice. This makes obsidian rings virtually impossible to maintain now. Which also, I don't think is a horribly bad thing. I think rings being the meta was not the greatest for this game. But I don't think they should be entirely nerfed to the ground like this to where anyone can spend 500 gold and get rid of a ring in seconds. It's a bit ridiculous how fast you can break stuff with this, and it also means that the Mineman perk is a bit worthless as well now. I think the fact that the pickaxe is so cheap and it's also unbreakable is insane. I think maybe the 2-tapping 5-high pillar of obsidian, that'd be fine if it were like 1 or 2 uses per pickaxe. I think that'd be reasonable, but the fact that anyone can just get a pickaxe with no durability that destroys 5 obsidian, that can destroy 10 obsidian in a second. I mean, it's ridiculous how fast this thing breaks. I don't know, it's going to be really interesting to see how the meta of using obsidian at all changes to this, because without rings you would think the next most logical option for streaking at mid would be obby boxes again, but even those can be destroyed in seconds with this. I don't know if streaking at mid will use any obsidian anymore, which would be pretty unfortunate to see, I think. Iron Pack no longer has an iron helmet. This one is very controversial because the iron helmet obviously helps out lower prestige players a lot. It means they don't have to use the safety first perk anymore, but still have a good measure of defense against people using G helms or diamond helms, for example. Personally, I never liked the whole Iron Pack meta. I think the fact that we had Fancy Hat as a substitute for that, to where you could have a helmet without wasting a perk slot or using a diamond or golden one, was cool, and the fact that you could dye it to any color you want added a lot of variety to people's G sets. I think that was something valuable. I find it boring seeing everyone in diamond chestplate, diamond boots, white iron helmet and then maybe mystic pants that are a different color, you know? I feel like fancy hats were a great idea, and the iron pack getting that out of the meta entirely was a bit upsetting, but the fact that it is reverted now is unfortunate. I think the best remedy to this is to remove Iron Pack entirely and give people a refund like they did with the Golden Pickaxe. If you bought the Golden Pickaxe Renown perk, then you got your 10 Renown back. I think they should do the same with the Iron Pack, just get rid of it entirely, and maybe make Fancy Hat unlocked at a lower prestige, like maybe 2 or 3. Because I do think people deserve to have that extra amount of protection, but the fact that it was an iron helmet when chain helmets from the perk were available, that completely killed safety first, and also completely killed Fancy Hat, was not the best thing to do. You don't want things completely, you don't want items in the game that entirely make other ones obsolete, I think is the best way to say that, and that's kind of how I predict this Golden Pickaxe is going to do with Obsidian, which would be a big shame, I think. Toggling spawn items, great change, great quality of life change. This has been asked for forever, and it's finally a thing. That's cool. Now, before really processing what the promotion change meant, I read Divine Miracle getting nerfed, and I was like, why is the most useless rare enchant getting nerfed? But now I understand, because this is the only way, besides Divine Intervention or Feathers, to save your lives when you die. So nerfing it to 10, 20, 30% is whatever, that's fine. Gamble, this one I'm very mixed on, because on one hand it absolutely was game breaking that you could use Aura of Protection or Hermit to use Gamble 3 and have that just do so much more damage, but I don't think removing that capability was the correct option at this point, being that Gamble 3 has been such a meta for such a long time now. I think the best thing they could have done is probably nerf Gamble, like the amount of damage that it does, because 3 hearts of damage to someone else or to yourself is ridiculous, and this update makes making Gamble 3 and most Gamble 2s entirely unusable. And you should never have an enchant that a higher tier of it makes it worse. And we'll see another example of that soon. RGM don't really understand this one, but you know, if it supposedly helps against cheaters and less against legit fights, then fair enough. I think RGM deserved a nerf, but it's fine without it. Regularity. This, I think, was probably the best way to do this, because you can't just entirely nerf regularity into the ground after it's been in the meta for almost a year, but you also couldn't keep it in the same state it was. So I think this is a nice middle ground to where true damage applies into the proc calculation, so you can't double hit with Gamble or Perun anymore, and bonus hits no longer count towards combo enchants. That's great. So you can still use your fist or a weak sword or whatever and get that combo effect, but you're not going to be proccing Perun every other hit or Gamble 4 times in 2 hits. That was ridiculous, and I think having the ability to combo people like that is still very, very overpowered, but making it so that that doesn't work so well with true damage, I think is the best way to do that. I think the best, in a perfect world, regularity would not exist at all, but it's here, and it's here to stay. So, respawn resistance, this was a much needed and much requested change. Potion effect now removed when unequipped, that's beautiful, it shouldn't. stay on, and you shouldn't be able to use darks, especially with it. That was ridiculous. Telebow, fixed limits on castle map, beautiful. Cooldown is refunded on failed teleport, beautiful. These changes have been needing to happen for years, and we finally got around to it. Diamond allergy, I wasn't actually ever sure if this was true, but I'm so glad it is patched now that I know it is true. Diamond allergy didn't work with spades, which was a real issue, because think about how many times someone hunts you with a diamond sword versus a mystic sword or a spade or anything else. Never, right? Because spades are just so much better. So the fact that diamond allergy only worked against swords was ridiculous, and so it should apply to spades. This is a great change, and this is how it should have always been. Chipping is also fixed now. That's great. What doesn't kill you is fixed. The cooldown was too long. That's great. I personally still think the cooldown should be shorter so it could be actually useful, but that's totally up to the admins. The billionaire changed. A lot of people Billionaire changed. A lot of people were confused about this. I think this is a great change. Peroxide, definitely a good change. I think I did definitely very much like my RGM Peroxide ones, but I think just like Gamble is now, an enchant shouldn't have tier 1 be the best tier of it, and that was the case with Peroxide, unfortunately. But now that's changed, and now it's better, and I am totally okay with this. Now, this is weird. I get why they did this, but also just use Diamond Allergy instead. I guess Ace of Spades 3, Diamond Allergy 3 could be cool, maybe, but I really don't see a need for this enchant to come into the game at all, but whatever. Prestiges now go up to 50, which is cool and all, but the fact that there's no perks after 25 is a bit concerning. I really wish they did more with this rather than just increasing the number, and increasing the number by so much too. We've only ever seen increases by like 5 each update, so the fact that they increased it by 15 with no new content is a bold move, but you know, I'm not mad at it at all. This one's really interesting. It's called the Death Streak, and if you die 3 times in a row without getting a kill, you get a golden apple on respawn, which does apply to Olympus potions and G-heads and all of that good stuff as well. Doesn't do anything if you use Vampire, which is a bit unfortunate. Maybe it could give you regen for a few seconds or something, but I think this is a cool concept that is horribly executed. A golden apple when you respawn is not going to do anything for the average player that's dying 3 times in a row without getting 1 kill. I think maybe you could do something cool where like you could pick a potion effect to respawn with, like resistance or speed or regen or whatever, and you know, maybe that would get used with hunting, but it would also give nons a slightly better chance, or at least the perception of a better chance. Right now, it does nothing for them. It's ridiculous. This next one, I have a personal gripe with, because one of my close friends, as most pit players did before this update, was stash streak. And I think while stash streaking is a grossly overpowered concept, this was not the way to fix it. Items in stash now lose lives on death. My friend had his entire god set in his stash, played a Spire event that puts your entire inventory into your stash anyway, so even if he did unstash, it would have gone right back in. And he died a bunch in the Spire. Obviously, you die a lot when you play Spire, and it broke everything he owned of like 30 PB net worth that he has spent the last however long grinding for. And so this was not the way to do it. I think what they should have done is instead up where they changed, where was it? Yeah, where they made it so that you can't drop mystics, trade, or use e-chest on a mega streak. They should have just done that with /stash. And you could have made the argument, oh, then people would just unstash at a 49 streak instead of at a 50. You could make it so that you can't stash at all if you're outside of spawn. Because the real purpose of stash is when you're trading something and your inventory is full. And so you never need stuff from your stash when you're down. You shouldn't anyway. I think that would have been a much better way to do it rather than making stuff in your stash lose lives, because what if you do a trade, don't realize stuff is in your stash, drop down, and that stuff in there loses lives? I mean, if you're dropping down with this new fucking promotion change, then you lose lives anyway, but this was just not the way to do it, and especially that bug with Spire. Do not play a Spire if you have anything in your inventory or stash with lives. Just really, it's tragic what happened to my friend, and he lost virtually all of his progress in this game. It's really upsetting that they did this, and also didn't make it very apparent. There is a message that shows up in chat when you lose lives on stuff in your stash, but it's just plain white text. It looks like a bug. It's not very noticeable, and so that's why he was able to die enough times for all of his items to break during the Spire without even noticing what was going on. So the increased lives on G-Helm, Archangel, and Armageddon boots I think is a great change if they're really going to stick with this whole promotion not saving lives anymore thing. Unfortunately, this hasn't been implemented yet. Maybe it will when King's Map and Genesis come back around and we get new G-Helms, Archangels, and Armas into the game, but for now, this means nothing. Apparently people got scammed with this. That's nice. That was fixed. Remove note blocks from Blockhead. That was a bug for the longest time. That's great. You shouldn't be able to double eat stuff. That's great. You shouldn't have your star next to your name for nicked players. That's great. And obviously, the competitive game ban system is fantastic for the game. I might go into that more in depth for a whole separate video, because that is just a game-changing, positive change. Fixed combat logging, fantastic. Gold Nano Factory no longer spawns tickets during raffle. This was a funny, kinda harmless bug, but I understand why they did this. Bad boots equipping over armors was a big bug that was very bad. This also ruined a lot of people's lives when they got martied while they're AFK and knocked into the pit and died with a lot of valuable items on them. Same with the vanilla double death bug. So overall, definitely a very good update. Aside from the few gripes that I had, I don't understand the changes to the shop item, particularly egg and pickaxe. I feel like this harms mid-streakers, and this making obsidian virtually useless. This harms people outside of mid who really need it most. Gamble, while I agree Gamble 3 was too overpowered, making it useless was not the way to go. Death Streak is a cool concept, but ultimately needs more work on it. You know how I feel about the stash losing death, losing lives. And most importantly, this just doesn't do anyone any good. I don't understand why it's like they want people to not use mystics. And I understand that's why they buffed Withercraft and made it magnum opus, so people could repair lives easier, but I don't think promotion was the issue. Like I said, as a lower pres when promotion first came out, before this I was scared to use my mystics because I didn't want to lose lives. I didn't want to have that trade-off for having a bit of fun and having a bit of buffs. And the fact that there's no way to save your lives even when you have a very successful streak is just not right for how this game should be and how people have fun in this game. And so I think this is the biggest issue that I have and that most people have with this update. For the rest of it, like I said, a few main gripes, but overall totally fine with the update. Besides this is absolutely game ruining, and I don't see myself streaking with any mystics until something is done about this. And you know, that's all I have to say about this update. Let me know your thoughts as well. If you agree about what I said about promotion. If not, I would love to have a debate in the comments or even make a follow-up video. Hopefully, I will be making a follow-up video in the next couple days as they revert this part of the update, as they did with the Rage Pants update. But yeah, overall, a lot of great stuff that's needed to change in the game for a long time, but ultimately, an update that hurts the game much more than it helps it. So I'm a little disappointed, is all I can say.